with all of our presentations here at Rural Roads, we like to begin by acknowledging the traditional lands that Rural Roads University rests upon. So Rural Roads University is situated on the traditional lands of the Kusepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. There has been a long history of teaching, learning, and gathering on these lands, and it's with great gratitude that we're able to live, learn, and work and play on this beautiful space. My name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education advisor here at Royal Roads University. And I am so excited to be joined by folks who will tell us much more about the program and how we can go about applying as well. So starting with Dr. Tamara Leary. Tamara is the director for the School of Education and Technology, as well as the program head for our HEAL programs. Thanks for being with us today, Tamara.
No worries. Thank you.
And we also have Lisa Murray. You'll see Lisa in our chat box, popping helpful links as we go along. Lisa's from our enrollment team. So if you have any questions about the application process or the program or anything as we move along today, please pop them in the chat box. See, we have a few more folks joining us, so we'll make sure to let them in so they join in the fun. So you've learned a little bit about who we are, and we would love to know a little bit more about all of you. So if you feel comfortable, let's take the chat box out for a cruise. Feel free to share where you're joining in from, what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar, or perhaps what had got you interested in our MAHEAL program. While our chat box introductions are coming in, I'll take a cruise through how we're going to spend the next 45 minutes together. So next, we're going to head into an exploration of the Rural Roads experience, move into a program overview, touch on the application process and the requirements of these programs, and of course, leave time for questions and conversation at the end of our session as well. But that said, as questions come up, please pop them in the chat box because we are happy to continue the conversation as we go. So speaking of our chat box, let's take a cruise over and see who's joining us today. Oh, wow. So we are spread all over Canada today with Tiffany joining from New Westminster in BC, Joel from Winnipeg, Stephanie from New West as well, Sarah, who knows Joel, very cool, Kaylee joining from the UK, Enrico from South Surrey, BC, Gary from UCN in Northern Manitoba, Sophia from Sweden, Sam from Trent University in Ontario, Megan from Saskatoon, Justine from Vancouver, Paul from Alberta, Angela in Halifax. So not only are we all across Canada, but we have quite a global audience with us as well. That's very cool. Thank you all so much for joining us. So to start off, we like to give you a look at our beautiful campus. As Victoria, BC has one of the most mild climates in Canada, we're pretty lucky that these pictures are a fair representation of what our campus looks like year-round. So taking a look at the top left photo, you see Hatley Castle. Hatley Castle is situated at the center of our campus and is probably the most iconic building, as you may recognize it from movies like the X-Men franchise, Deadpool, and a few Disney things as well. So Hatley Castle is a really fun place to have at the center of our campus. Not too far from Hatley Castle, we have a variety of curated gardens. So here you see our Japanese gardens. The gardens are well loved not only by our students, our staff, but the greater community as well. So if you are ever in our area or if you've been to Victoria already, come visit us. Our gardens are such a beautiful place to get some moments of peace and quiet and really ground yourself in the space that we're very fortunate to occupy. Not too far from the gardens, we have a Esquimalt Lagoon. The lagoon's a very lively place as well, as it's a registered bird sanctuary. So lots of different critters hanging out around the lagoon. And finally, the bottom right photo here, you see a photo depicting online learning. This is particularly important for us to share in these turbulent times that Rural Roads University has been a leader in online education for over 25 years. So that means that when COVID hit, we were well positioned to ensure that all of our students, staff were supported in moving their studies fully online. and we'll talk a little bit more about what online learning looks like in this program right now. So I will pass it over to you, Tamara.
Thank you very much, Selena. And I'll get you to move the slides as I move along because I don't have access to that. Welcome, everyone. And thank you so very much for your interest in the MAHEAL program in Royal Roads. We're very aware that there are many choices out there, so we certainly don't take it lightly that you've decided to give your time today and your interest to us, and we want to make best use of that. So heartfelt thanks. The overall purpose of the program, well, if you're looking at this program, chances are that you are an aspiring or existing leader or administrator in a higher education setting, and that by completing your master's, you will have the opportunity to develop your knowledge and skills so that you're that much better equipped to take on new leadership and administration roles. Just to give you a little bit of information about the types of things you will be talking about in MAHEAL. There are many leadership issues out there. And in fact, I invite any of you that are in the chat box, if there's a pressing one that you don't see here in this slide, by all means, feel free to pop it into the chat box. But not news to any of you, I am sure, the sorts of things that you will find running through the conversations, the content, the reading for all of the courses are things around globalization, what sort of impact that's having and has had and will have as we move forward in the higher education sector. What sorts of things do leaders and administrators need to consider when they're managing the day-to-day complexities of our institutions? We are a unique bunch. And having conversations with your peers who will come from all sorts of different areas within higher education really helps to give us a broader understanding of exactly how do we manage the complexities and what are some of the more pressing issues that we're dealing with now and that we can start to plan for as we go forward in the future. There are courses designed to talk about and teach about assuring quality, program quality, service quality. How do we assess that in a university and college environment? And of course, things around leading change, being able to integrate technology into all that you do outside of the classroom in service delivery. How do we begin to decide how and when to make best use of technology in all that we do? So those are just a few of the topics that you would find running throughout the different courses. Here within MAHEAL, we certainly reflect the principles for that Royal Roads has, the method to the madness, if you will, of how and why we do what we do. MAHEAL is very much rooted in ensuring that we've given our students opportunities to consider how they lead change and how they lead innovation in their institutions. And we reflect that in exactly how we build and deliver our courses. So you can expect as a student in the MAHEAL program that a lot of the course material will help you just enhance that sense of self-awareness as a leader, as an administrator, as a person, who you are now, who you would like to be, what you're working towards. We also intentionally build in a lot of teamwork in each of the courses because being able to work effectively with others, being able to build and foster positive working relationships are key to what we do, not only in our personal life, but certainly in our professional lives. You'll also see that a lot of our courses make true application of systems thinking, and that's very foundational to Royal Roads University. You would find that in many of the programs here at the university. We take a systems thinking, a holistic approach to how we start to understand challenges, conflict, and how we best prepare to address those challenges and conflicts, particularly in a leadership and administrative role. There's great emphasis put on the importance of making evidence-based decisions. How do you do that? What does that mean exactly? And again, these are things that you would not find just in any one course, but you will find them embedded throughout all of the courses. Being able to think critically and creatively, being inquiry oriented. Again, these are values that we hold and you will see reflected in the course material. Our program design, you can see there that there is indeed, as I often say, a method to the madness. And this is something that I know myself, having come from different institutions, I've always been very impressed by Royal Road's approach to their design and programs, and I'm proud to be a part of it. There is intentionally a great deal of effort putting into ensuring that programs and the courses within them are very outcomes based. Students have a very clear understanding of what they can expect to learn, what opportunities await them in each course. We also have a cohort-based learning community, and what that means is you will start the master's program with a group of students, a cohort, and then you will move through the program with that cohort. So unlike other more traditional graduate level programs where you may be able to have, you would have some certain assigned courses that you must take, but you would also have the option to take different electives. You may break away from the group that you started with. MAHEAL is very focused on ensuring that you have the opportunity to grow, develop with your specific cohort. We are big here on applied, authentic learning, and I think that is probably the top feedback that I get from students regularly throughout the program, how very much they're appreciating not only learning what they're learning, but the ability to apply what they're learning, to take from those readings, from those conversations and assignments, and to turn around and apply it right away in their work. And that's very rewarding, it's very validating, and it often just contributes to one's learning. We are also very based in action-oriented research. So we have a strong focus on being able to reflect that in all of our courses. Our program, there is consecutive, you will move through courses consecutively. Everybody has a program completion plan, if you will. And if for some reason a student has to defer or has to step out, then we work with you to ensure that that program is still meets your needs and is in compliance with getting you across that stage. You will find in the MAHEAL program, and again, this is something that being in the higher education sector, I am certainly a big fan of and an advocate of, but I have not seen it in other institutions that I've had the opportunity to work with, valued, I guess, or such a priority placed on ensuring that the faculty you learn from and work with are scholar practitioners. So not only do they have the credentials to be able to teach the course, but to some degree, more importantly, sometimes they actually have the experiences. They have the stories to tell, the experiences to share of not only reading about theory, but the application of it. And again, this provides for a very rich learning experience. It's also a fantastic way for students to broaden their professional network, because a lot of these faculty will introduce you to their network, be it through program presentations, panels, and students then go off and form their own relationships. And as you know, this is a blended learning model. We have a usually on-campus residency with MAHEAL, 2 weeks at the beginning of your program, and then a 3-day one in year 2 for your last course. In response to COVID, this year's residency for 2021 will be online, but I'm very happy to report that last year we had to do that as well, and it was very, very successful and well received. Certainly didn't compromise the learning and the student engagement. So just quickly, you've probably had a look at this. The Masters of Arts, so the full 2-year program, there's 33 credits. You have 2 completion options. You can complete a course base, which means, and we'll go through which courses would be included, but essentially if you do a course base or a research paper as your capstone, then you're going to move through the program over 2 years and complete 10 courses. The last course will be a systematic lit review, and it's a 6-month course. So this is a major piece of writing, and it's a capstone project. The other completion option is a thesis. And I may talk a little bit about more about this as we move through, but just to give you a very quick overview, the thesis application or the thesis route is one that students would apply for early in the program. And it's something that I usually meet with students about. Because you have a 2-year period, a thesis exit means that a student is well set up for success in their thesis. So they've thought through a research idea, they've got the support and structure in place to succeed. There's a very tight timeline to get through ethics, conduct your research, and write your thesis. That all happens within a 10-month period. So we like the opportunity to have students apply for the thesis so we can consult with them, make sure they have everything that they need and they are well set up for success. The graduate diploma in higher ed, admin and leadership is 1 year. So you take essentially the first year of the master's courses. And then there are graduate certificates embedded within the 2-year program. And we have 3 graduate programs: systems leadership, which you take 3 courses, business development and international education, which is a different 3 courses, and strategic enrollment management, which is again is another 3 courses. And I'll talk a little bit about those as we get further along. The research paper option that I spoke about in terms of the capstone project. So what you would be taking on, if that was your option, you complete what we call the kind of onboarding or preparatory courses 2 weeks prior to the official start of the master's program. These are 2 courses that are non-credit and have been put together to help students ensure that we're all, everybody's at an equal starting point. Some students will have just recently come out of school, and others, most, have not been in school for some time. So these preparatory courses are put together to ensure students are comfortable with the learning software that we use. They're familiar with using Moodle, they know where to find things in the course shell, and the academic integrity course ensures that students are familiar with all academic regulations around the academic conduct. The first 2 courses start in June. You do your first 3 weeks online, and then you would typically come to campus for a 2-week residency. This is the only time in the program where you will take 2 courses at once. Throughout the rest of the program, you are only taking 1 course at a time. So residency kicks off with 2. 501 focuses on leadership, 510 focuses on research methodology. So both help set the stage for the next 2 years of what you can expect from the program. You move into 550, which again, all courses are about 9 weeks, and you have about 5-6 days between courses. And that's how we get you across the stage in 2 years with a master's. Again, unlike more traditional programming where you would have a fall term, 13 weeks or 12 weeks, and then a Christmas break and another 12, 13 weeks and a spring break, and then some students go on to the summer session. We are constant. So you have, you've committed to 2 years of work, 9-week courses, 5-6 days between, and then you go right back into another course. So it is a commitment that way. You don't have those traditional breaks. Online term 2, what that refers to, and you can see the 3 courses broken down. These are the courses that comprise the specializations, and the specializations align with the grad certificates. So for students who would opt to take the systems leadership specialization, you would be taking consecutively 520, 530, 540. If you opted to take the Business Development in International Education, at the same time your cohort who chose the Systems Leadership stream would be taking their courses, you will be taking 525, 535, 545. So the difference between these courses, I get asked that a lot. 520, 525, some of the topics are going to be the same. However, the emphasis in 520, you're going to spend a little bit more time looking at things in terms of systems leaderships and systems thinking, where 525, you're going to look at some of those same topics, but you're going to consider them more from an international or business development perspective in international education. So you break off into your streams, you do those 3 courses, and then you all come back together in your cohort for the last part of your program, 560, 570, LRNT 506, which is your research proposal course, and then you complete your last course, 610, for 6 months. And I know that I'm throwing a lot at you here. This is not, you don't have to memorize this. We revisit this throughout the program so that you're well prepared and know what to expect, what's on the horizon. If you were to do the thesis option, then again, you can see that it's very similar. You're doing all the same coursework up until you complete the specializations in online term 2. And then if you were successful in doing the thesis option, instead of doing the last batch of courses, 560, 570, you're going to do LRNT 600, which is your research proposal, and then you move into your actual thesis work, which would be, again, about a 10-month, 8 to 10-month period within which you would complete your thesis, and that falls under LRNT 690. If you were thinking, not quite ready to take on a master's or diploma, but you're interested to see, what the program can offer in a graduate certificate level, then we invite you to think about the systems leadership in higher education. And if you were accepted into this certificate program, then you parachute in and you join the MAHEAL cohort and you complete 3 courses with them, 550, and that's the full cohort takes that course. And then you would break out and complete 520, 530 with the MAHEAL students who have opted to complete systems leadership as their specialization. Likewise, if your interest was in business development in international education, you parachute in as a graduate certificate student and join the cohort when they are beginning to take their stream courses 525, 535, and 545. What I should mention to you about these 2 graduate certificate programs in particular is quite often students will start with the grad certs, they fall madly in love with the program and get introduced to that cohort. They opt to then what we refer to as ladder in to the master's or the diploma. And what that means is these 3 courses that you've completed obviously go towards the completion of your diploma or the master's program. You don't have to retake them. The last graduate certificate program is the Strategic Enrollment Management. That is our newest program, and right now is not set up to ladder into the master's or diploma the way the other 2 certificates do, but I'm working on it. The 550, again, you parachute in and you take a 550 systems thinking and strategic planning with the full cohort, and then at the same time students have broken out into those other courses I mentioned, 520 or 525, you would be taking 580, and at the same time students are taking 530 and 535, you would be taking 585. And again, I do want to preface that I'm getting a lot of interest, and that was very much anticipated in the development of the grad cert, for students saying, well, if I complete this, how can I still ladder in? Well, you have 550, and I'm currently working on ways to be able to ladder in those 2 other courses into the master's program.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Back over to me to touch on the application process and program requirements. So that brings us just around the corner to our question and conversation session. So if you have any questions that are bubbling from the program information we just learned about, please pop them in the chat box and we'll all get to chat about them shortly. So talking about our application process, we like to begin by sharing our admission criteria with all of you. So here at Railroads, we have two admission pathways. One being standard admissions, which you see here. And standard admissions requires a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree from a recognized post-secondary institution, as well as a minimum of 3 years of relevant paid work experience within recognized higher education institutions, being public or accredited colleges, universities, polytechs, or institutions providing formal tertiary programs, and including some leadership experience. You'll notice as we move through, you'll see the little asterisks above things like some leadership experience. And that means that if you head to our website, you'll be able to see a really wonderful definition of what we qualify as leadership experience. And that definition is quite broad because, as Tamara has alluded to throughout the presentation so far, here at Rural Roads, it's not only the academics that we ensure are put front and center, but it's the professional experience, the lived experience, the application. So that is why you'll see our definition of leadership being quite broad and wonderfully so. Our second pathway here is flexible admissions. So flexible admissions is for those folks who may not satisfy our standard admission criteria, but would absolutely be wonderful additions to our classroom. So for flexible admissions, applicants would normally require a minimum of 7 years of work experience in higher education institutions, including a minimum of 3 years leadership experience. Our flexible admission applicants are assessed on a case-by-case basis. So if you have any questions about what flexible admissions could mean to you, please connect with our offices, as we're always happy to help navigate that conversation. So how to actually go about applying? Well, it begins with an online application. And that application comes with a $126.28 fee. And once that application is in, then the portal opens up for you to start submitting some supporting documents. So listed here are some of the things that we would ask of you, beginning with your official transcripts, official meaning that they do need to arrive at our institution sealed, a personal statement. The personal statement is an opportunity for you to tell us, why are you interested in MAHEAL? How can MAHEAL support your professional development? A structured resume. Within this resume, we'll look for things like education, work experience, volunteer experience, training, PD, leadership experience, you name it. I should mention that our website is a wonderful resource for moving through this application process, because we have lots of tips and tricks as to how long these documents should be, what kinds of questions should you be answering, as well as how they should be structured to ensure that all of your experiences shine bright. And finally, 2 letters of reference. And on our website, we do have information about who those referees could be and how they can submit their letters to our offices as well. So upcoming intakes. Our MA and Graduate Diploma, Higher Education Administration and Leadership, our MA and GD HEAL, they start June 14th, 2021, putting its application deadline around the corner at March 14th, 2021. So if you're interested in beginning this program in June, we highly, highly recommend getting in that online application before March 14th. If you're looking at some of the graduate certificates we chatted about, we have those start dates and application deadlines as well, with the Business Development and International Education beginning later in the year, October 25th, putting its application deadline at July 25th, 2021, and then both Systems Leadership and Higher Education, as well as Strategic Enrollment Management, beginning in the summer, so August 16th, 2021, putting their application deadlines at March 16th, 2021. We get lots of questions about financial aid, and that is great. Our financial aids and awards specialists have their fingertips on all sorts of resources, both internally and externally, that could help you financially support our learners through their educational journey at Rural Roads University. So here we just have a few things such as loans, awards, research scholarships, other types of funding that our specialists are able to assist you with. So we highly recommend connecting with them We have our website noted here as well as direct phone numbers, but they do have a wonderful blog as well. And I'm going to imagine that Lisa's putting that in the chat box if she hasn't already. Thanks so much, Lisa. And speaking of Lisa, Lisa is just one example of the beautiful team we have on our campus to help answer any questions you might have about this program or any others as well. So you can find Lisa and her team at learn.more@ruralroads.ca. And if you're connecting with us internationally, our international admissions and registration teams would be more than happy to help you. And you can connect with them at learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. So that has brought us to the end of the formal presentation piece of our chat today. So I'm going to take down the presentation and pop into the chat box to answer any questions that might have come up. Before we do that, we'd just like to let you know that the School of Education and Technology has a blog as well. So if you're interested in learning more about education and technology at Rural Roads, head on over to set.ruralroads.ca/blog to learn more. So with that, let me stop sharing our presentation here and pop up our chat box. Okay. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa's provided such wonderful links in our chat box to the MAHEAL program pages, our signature pedagogy here at Rural Roads, our learning, teaching, and research model, bios for our faculty, program schedules, a link to our academic reading and writing course. If you find that helpful for you, thank you so much, Lisa. And links to our admission requirement pages as well, where the leadership definition can be found. That is awesome. And Lisa, also, thank you so much, Lisa, popped in our chat box that we encourage applicants to chat with our amazing alumni who can share their experience and how they applied their learning. So if you'd like to connect with an alumni from this program to learn more, connect with Lisa directly at lisa.murray@ruralroads.ca. So while questions are kind of coming in, I'll look to our registration page. We have some wonderful folks who may not be able to join us today, still ask some questions. So Tamara, one that came up quite often is, how many hours per week should I be putting aside for this program? I know that's kind of a hard one to answer.
It is a very hard one to answer because obviously everybody as an individual learner, their needs will differ. What you can expect, I think, on average, is that for each week that you are in a course over the 9 weeks, you can expect probably anywhere from 3 to 4 hours maybe of classwork, and that's going to vary. Some weeks might be an hour, and then another week that you have an assignment. But you do need to ensure you have time to complete readings. Usually for each week, there are assigned readings. There are usually opportunities to come together, whether that is synchronously in a live session or asynchronously on your own time, to participate in discussion forums. So, as best you know yourself as a learner, I advise folks to adjust their schedule so that they do have some chunks of time throughout the week, whether it's an hour, one day of the week, or could be Sunday mornings, or whatever you would like, a 3-hour block of time to dive into your work. So it varies. I have a direct question here too from one of our participants, which is a great question, asking how large the cohort is that we accept each year. On average, the cohort has been about 25, 26 students. Some years it's been a little bigger, some years it's been a little smaller. That is a lovely size for a cohort, because it's still manageable for people. So that's roughly where we're at. In terms of a max, we haven't had to max out yet in any given year. Another message or another one is, would I be able to provide some examples of previous capstone projects? That's a really good question as well. And so the capstone projects at this point are all systematic lit reviews. So you go into the final course with a proposal. You've identified what your topics are, you've identified what your topic is, you've identified what your research questions are, and through 506, you've learned how to what's involved in doing a systematic lit review. So all capstone projects are systematic lit reviews. So it's a major piece of writing at the end that a student will give a poster presentation on, and that they can take great pride in, whether they go off to publish a particular part of that final paper or to present it. That's theirs to do with as they choose.
Thank you, Tamara. I have a question here as well. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about the link at the start of the program? What is that about? How long is that?
The link is 2 weeks. And it will introduce you first and foremost to your cohort. So there's activities and opportunities to engage, get to know one another. And then, you know, each day there's usually each day or each second day, there's usually an activity that's designed to help you become familiar with something you're going to need, a tool or a resource throughout the school. So whether or throughout your program. So for example, there are exercises that will involve you engaging with the library. So, you know, the takeaway from that is that you've become more familiar with how to access the library and what resources the library has. There's activities around learning how to post in the discussion forum and how to navigate the Moodle course shell. So those are obviously skills you take forward that way. There are presentations around services and supports that you can expect as a student at Royal Roads. So it's very much an onboarding type program. Students are required to complete all of the activities, and they do need to have successfully completed the link to move into the program.
Amazing. And a question about the program itself. I have someone here wondering, are there scheduled times? For example, you know, Tuesday 5 to 7 is lecture time. Is it synchronous, asynchronous? How does that work?
So prior COVID, we did not have any assigned synchronous class times. With moving our residency online, a way that we were able to do that, we didn't want to have students, you know, for 2 weeks, 8 to 4 in front of the screen. We did put in synchronous class. So every Wednesday night I had my class, every Monday night the other faculty member had her class. Typically that is not the case. So you do not have an assigned Wednesday night class typically. Going into this residency, knowing it's going to be online, that will be an expectation. I'll be looking for the faculty member to do just that once a week or every second week, depending again on the class size. And because we don't have the residency, and the residency is such a critical component of building the community cohort and in helping to ensure students are set up for success for the rest of the 2 years. But as you move past that, when you get through that online residency, no, there are not scheduled times. I do ask all faculty to ensure that they offer synchronous sessions. They're usually maybe every third week, or there might be 2 in the 9-week period. Again, depending on the content of the course. This is where it's not lecture-based. This is when faculty are encouraged to bring in guest speakers, or there's an activity that will involve the full cohort. So most of your learning is asynchronously. It's you know, driven on your own time, knowing that you have a 9-week period for each course.
Amazing. And we have some interest to learn more about the first residency. So a question here, how long is the first residency and what are we covering in 501 and 510?
So the residency is a 2-week period of time. So with moving into the online version, The residency has been spread out over the 9-week period. So we adjusted what we would have covered in person, 8 to 4, Monday to Friday for 2 weeks. We spread out over the 9-week period, hence having those synchronous blocks of time. 501 looks at leadership in higher education. And we also give the students the opportunity to dive further into understanding who they are as leader. We use the Insights leadership assessment tool, which is just very, very well received and appreciated by students. They quite often refer back to that. It's a full assessment of who you are as a leader, and perhaps more importantly, what is expected of you as a leader in terms of understanding the needs of your team and how to work with different personalities, different preferences. So a lot spent on leadership. Coming out of that course, you should certainly have a better sense of who you are as a leader, what sorts of areas you'd like to develop as a leader. You will know more about leadership theory, how theory informs leadership practice, and you will have also given time to thinking about what are some of the more complex challenges that leaders have to face in higher education. 510 looks at research methodology, and the reason that that course is put at the first is to ensure that students are comfortable with the language that they can expect to see as they're reading articles and academic sources, as they're reading other pieces of research to help inform their own learning. It's really, it can be a little intimidating to pick up an academic journal and an article and fully understand if you haven't been in school for a while, or you're not, research hasn't been something that you've spent a lot of time having to digest. So 510 sets you up for a better understanding of the different types of research methodology, the different terms. They talk a little bit about what it's meant to have a theoretical foundation or a philosophical perspective, who you are, what do you align with in terms of theory. So those are the takeaways for 510.
Thank you so much, Tamara. That looks like the end of the questions I have on my end. Were there any other questions on your end or anything else you wanted to add?
Gosh, I'm trying to think now some of the more popular questions. One is certainly, when do I need to know my specialization? Well, we don't look for you to make that decision until the end of 501, 510. So you've got some time to consider which you feel would be best aligned with your learning interest. We also get questions about when do I know if I want to take a thesis, if I want to apply for the thesis application. So the thesis application will happen fairly early in your master's program. We look for applications, I think, are due the 1st of October of that first fall. So they would be due October 2021, decisions made by November, and students, partnered with their faculty supervisor in December. They know who they are in December. They don't have to work with them until they get closer to their thesis. The reason we have it early in the program is to help students plan. Now, sometimes I've had students who have applied for a thesis, they've been accepted into the thesis track, but then they get further into the program and they just decide it's not for them, or they don't want to do it, and we can certainly make those changes. In terms of how many students get accepted into the thesis, each year, if we have a cohort of, like I had said, roughly 25, we usually have 2 or 3 people from the MAHEAL cohorts apply to complete by thesis, and usually 1 or 2 will be accepted. That has to do, again, like I said, with the student's familiarity with research, to ensure that they've got a very clear sense of what it is they want to research, what their topics are, that they're set up to be able to commit the time to completing that thesis in a very short period of time, and that we've given some thought to who we have here at Royal Roads that can support them as a faculty advisor, as a supervisor, because that's a critical component of it. And if we don't have somebody within the school, we look at the core faculty within Royal Roads community. And if we can't find someone there, then we start looking outside of the community, for another faculty member, somebody who holds a PhD, to supervise you.
We have one more question that's come in our chat box. I think it'd be a great one to end on. So we have a question about, are there any group projects throughout the MAHEAL program?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So every course, you can expect each course will have 4 to 5 assignments. And of those 4 to 5 assignments, you can expect 2 or 3 to be team-based. And what that means is each course you're assigned a team. So unlike some programs where you're assigned a team at the beginning of your program and you keep the same team for the 2 years, in MAHEAL you get different teams every course. And we've done that because we do have students parachuting in to do grad certs or to take an elective. And we want to make sure that it's inclusive, and we want to make sure that students have opportunity to work with everybody. So roughly, if you had 4 assignments, you can expect 2 of those to probably be team-based. If you had 5 assignments, in total, probably 2, 3 will be team-based. We do, ensure that the bulk of the grade is still assigned to the individual work, because team assignments are graded as 1. So you're introduced very early into what your team would be in the course and what your team assignments would be. But you can expect 1 except till when you get to 610. Then the last course, that's self-directed.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tamara. That was like a lightning round of questions. That was
That's
wonderful.
okay. That's fantastic to have that level of interest. And, Selena will say to you, as you leave this and ideas and questions are percolating, please do not hesitate to reach out. Always happy to have a conversation and to answer questions.
Absolutely. Oh, I so echo Tamara in that we're here to continue the conversation. So for anyone today live who questions continue to bubble, or anyone who's watching the recording, connect with us. The easiest way will be to find us at learn.more@royalroads.ca or learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. So with that, we wish you a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, depending when and where you're watching this from. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.